And it says we're live. We don't have any fancy intro music or anything like that to play today. This is all on my list of things to do that I'm going to eventually come up with music. I'm going to come up with intro music or anything like that. Oh, hey, hold on. I've got myself in my ears.
Uh-oh. You got
There.
your YouTube running?
I got my YouTube running, and now I'm back. See, this is what happens when you log on and watch a 2-bit content creator and not one of those professional guys. What's up, Nightwolf? Looks like we've got Nightwolf going. And I did post this over on Gun Channels. And I think it is... Maybe I didn't save it. Looks like it has been. I don't know now. I think we're good to go. I think this is showing up over on Gun Channels, so anybody that wants to go check us out over on Gun Channels, we're there live as well, I do believe. If that's not right, somebody can let me know. I just wanted to make a quick live video and just talk a little bit about Independence Day, and I don't mean the awesome movie or the not quite as awesome sequel. I'm talking about today, the 4th of July, in the greatest country in the world, is a holiday. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that and just, find out what freedom means to everybody that's joining us here. I know that we may or may not be keeping Midnight Range TM. He's driving home right now. So, Travis, go ahead and say hello. And I want to know what freedom means to you, especially if I remember right. Are you a veteran, sir?
No, I'm not. Absolutely
okay. Not. All righty. Well,
far from it, I'm more of a coward than a fighter.
Yeah, join the club. As a career civilian like myself, what does freedom, what does independence mean to you?
Oh my gosh, I can't say I had a bad day today. We had a great day. I'm actually on my way back from camp right now. My wife and I and a bunch of family went up to camp, which is some land and a cabin that my grandpa had bought back in 50 years. It'll be 50 years in October.
No.
Got up there and had a great day. Had some food and took the little man out on a 4-wheeler and got back, and it started eventually. So I loaded up.
Aha. Well, you kind of
do that.
You're kind of in and out there, but it sounds like it was a good day. Lots of freedom being celebrated today. So that is awesome. Also with us here, we've got everyone's favorite tactical chicken along for the ride. Gary, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fairly well. Thanks for the invite, and happy Independence Day and all that.
Absolutely. Now, I don't know if I know this about you or not. Are you a veteran, sir?
I am not.
Okay.
My father was.
Yep. I actually, my dad and my granddad both served in the Army. My dad was actually, he was drafted back in, I want to say it was either 67 or 68 he was drafted. And he was married, so he was the first married man to be drafted from the county where he lived at the time. Still the same county he lives right now. Thank God my dad never had to go to Vietnam. He actually stayed stateside for his whole 2 years. He was an MP, stationed a lot of places. The longest place he was stationed was Fort Hood, there in Central Texas. And he's got some pretty good stories of taking people to the stockade, but nothing as far as having to go overseas or seeing any of the horrors that the people saw when they were in that terrible place. But what I wanted to do is just first and foremost, anyone who's listening to this, if you are currently serving or if you have served in the past, we we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We understand that freedom isn't free. And we understand that almost 250 years ago, that a handful of people decided that they wanted to pay the price of that freedom and create a new country, create a new government, something that's never been done before. And we are, if I'm not mistaken, we are the oldest government now in the world. Other nations are older, but their government systems have changed since 1776, and we are still remaining as a republic. And so we are the greatest country in the world, and I will have words with anyone who disagrees with that. But I want to say thank you to everyone who has not only made that possible, not just the people almost 250 years ago, in 1775, 1776, who fought for our independence and won that for us, but everyone since, including today, who is willing to make the ultimate sacrifice if necessary, just to keep those of us that are still here free. So again, I can't express my gratitude enough for everyone who's doing that. I guess I don't have a whole lot of things that I necessarily want to really cover. I just wanted to get together if we could, and I didn't think there was anything going on as far as live chats this afternoon. So as far as that goes, anybody have anything that they want to bring up, be it freedom-wise or Independence Day related, veteran related, anything like that?
Well, I know my father and two uncles served in World War II. And then one of those uncles went on to serve in the Korean War also. But, and what they did, they were, of course, the greatest generation. But everybody who served in the armed forces all the way back to the Revolutionary War through Civil War, World War I, II, Korean War, Vietnam, latter day people, that's served recently, anybody who's given up that freedom to go serve for their country, I have a lot of respect for and a lot of gratitude that they were willing to do that, to put their lives on the line for all of us to continue to live the lives we live and to have the things that we have, the freedoms that we have, and of course our flag. Thank you to all of them, past and present. We owe you everything.
Amen. We do absolutely owe them everything. Midnight Range, anything you want to add? Are you still with us?
Yeah, but I'm barely hearing you guys, so you can probably barely hear me, huh? Does it sound all right?
You're actually coming through really clear right there. Well, unless I'm not coming back through.
I hear you, buddy.
A couple of minutes. Let me see if I can get around this mountain. Let me come back to you.
Okay. All right. We'll talk amongst ourselves.
So did anybody shoot any fireworks today? I didn't get outside because I'm not feeling well. I've pretty much just stayed in the house today, trying to nurse this cold so I can get back to work tomorrow. But I've been watching everybody else's videos. I did get my flag put out this morning, and I wasn't going to not do that. So it's out and waving in all its glory right now. And
that's something that I need to get out to is a flag, get a flag and a flag pole that I can actually put out. We've got a bracket on the house, but the flag pole and the flag that I have, they don't go together. I need a flag with the what do they call it? The tunnel, I guess, through it or whatever, instead of just the grommets.
Oh yeah.
Or else I need to get a flagpole with two different sets of hooks that is for a grommeted flag.
Yeah, I just got the kit that had everything in it. The flag had the, I think, 2.5 by 4 flag and had the aluminum 2-section pole, and it went right in the existing bracket.
Perfect.
And
that's what I should just do.
I just bought it this last winter so I'd have a new flag for this year, and figured, well, it's time to get her out. It's 4th of July. So.
Yep, exactly.
Didn't take me that long. Go ahead.
I got some bars now. I think I got a couple of bars that. Can you guys hear me?
Well, welcome back. Yeah, we can hear you just fine. I can.
Oh, God.
Unfortunately, right?
No, heck no.
America and stuff.
If I didn't want to hear from you, I never would have invited you.
I really thought I was going to get a link to an empty room, so this is a treat.
You thought it was just going to be the two of us?
No, I
And-
figured it was just going to be me.
Oh, okay. No, I
Not
wouldn't
an
have done
echo
that to
chamber,
you.
huh?
Yeah, heck
No,
yeah.
okay.
Night Strike has joined us, the one who strikes at night. We are just kind of talking a little bit about freedom.
Right now, it's the one who's stuck in Linux hell because
Oh,
the web server for GunTube and all my websites went down. So
I noticed that I couldn't log in. I was going to see if I could simulcast or at least put a link to this chat there.
I've been working on it all week, actually. Now, come to think of it, weekend, week, whatever, just both of them in right there.
Yeah, so I definitely tried to share the love over there, but as soon as you have your technical difficulties, we need an IT rooster somewhere that you could bring in for some relief, maybe to help you troubleshoot.
I wish I actually had a budget so I could hire someone to do this shit for me. So I don't
No
have
kidding.
to do it.
No kidding.
But the budget just isn't there, so I have to do everything myself. So if one thing goes wrong, I have to fix it.
Sure. We've just kind of been going through the room a little bit, and we've been discussing what freedom and independence mean to us, and then we also have talked about, and I know that you also are not a veteran. You've been a career civilian like myself and Midnight Range and Gizzard have been. But do you have close relatives, family members who are veterans, and then what does freedom mean to you, and just, we've been kind of just expressing how appreciative we are that we live in the best country, the most free country.
Okay.
Wow.
What freedom means to me is shut up, be infringed. And yes, my grandfather was a Korean War veteran. Granted, he didn't go and stand over in the front lines. They put him in a warehouse in California as a supply sergeant. And the factor that he was actually a supply sergeant in the Army during the Korean War says something about him, that he was able to get that high. Or they were just handing out promotions left and right. Who knows? But maybe they just needed people for the positions. I don't know. My uncle was in Desert Storm. And I've had great-grandfathers that fought in the Civil War. So I've also had great uncles that fought on the other side of the Civil War, the one that rebelled. So yeah, fun stuff.
So that was almost in your family. It almost was literally brother versus brother in that war. You're saying?
Well, the point is that at that point, that's different. That's a different part of the family. That's the one that Ellis is part of.
Oh, well, that explains a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah. So I wouldn't say it's that my family has always been in the military, but I will say that off and on that people in my family, grandfathers and whatnot, served in the military, so I didn't have to.
Sure, and that's exactly how I feel right now.
But that doesn't mean I don't have the most respect for those that serve in the military, because I do.
Yep, and I feel the exact same way. I'm thankful for everyone who is currently serving, because of you folks, I don't have to serve, and then I can do some other stuff. I have the freedom to support you, in your endeavors, and I have, again, the utmost respect for everyone who has served their country, and for not being a veteran. I don't know how common this is in other people, but I have a very, very strong love for my country and my country's flag. And I'm not a veteran, but if I'm driving down the road, someone has a flagpole out and their flag is out after dark and it's not lit up, or the flag is tattered and they haven't taken it down and replaced it. I mean, it literally makes me hurt. It upsets me and it makes me angry, but it hurts my feelings that someone would disrespect my flag that I love so much in that way. But I don't necessarily, I've always been patriotic, but I've never really paid that much attention to how much I love my country until a little bit later in life. I didn't feel compelled to enlist and serve in the military, when I was young enough to have done so, and now it's a little past the time to do that.
I probably could have when I was younger, because when I just turned 18, you realize what had happened then. It was just a little bit after 9/11, and everyone the military had lessened its restrictions on who could join the military because, well, they needed people. I could have joined then, and I didn't, mostly because my parents wanted me to go to college and whatnot. So.
Right. And I was already, when 9/11 happened, I was already out of the house. And
I looked at joining every branch, and every branch wanted me to go out and fight instead of, going and doing a supply job or something like my grandfather wanted. Because my grandfather's, he had this rule in the family saying, if any of you join the military, you have to join the Army and you have to join supply. It's family tradition. So I don't know about that, but I didn't do it. My cousin tried to join the Navy and then dropped out. So that was funny because I knew he would. I knew he wouldn't last 2 weeks in boot camp. He's one of those black sheep family members,
Gotcha. All right. Looks like we don't have anything going on over in the Gun Channels chat yet. Here on the YouTube side, we do have a little bit of chatter going on. Philo says California is worse than Korea. So apparently being stationed in California wasn't.
Now it is. Being in California in like the late 40s, early 50s, it's pretty nice then.
And I've got Kentucky 64 saying that he went in right out of high school, and he was in boot camp when the Beirut TNT attack happened in 1984. So, Kane, thank you very much for your service. We do appreciate you.
Thank you.
Squib is in the house. Squib, if you would like a link, let me know, and I will get one to you, or maybe you got one in your email. But if you want to join us, you are definitely welcome here. So
I hear Squib is also a veteran.
Squib is a veteran. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Squib is a Marine. Is that not right?
I believe Squib is a Marine.
So, we would love to get a little different perspective joining us here to talk. If you've got a few minutes to join us, Squib, so let us know. We'll get you in here. But again, everyone who's listening, everyone who's in the chat right now, who has served, that again, you have our utmost respect, you have our gratitude, and our appreciation.
Yes. So happy 4th of July, or if you don't like the happy 4th of July, happy Independence Day.
Happy Independence Day. I like to call it Independence Day because every country in the world has a 4th of July. It's on the calendar, but not every country celebrates their independence today. And so that's what makes this day special.
Or as I like to call it, happy we kicked England out of our country day.
We did. Now, I actually I had a comment earlier today on something on Instagram that G-Webs had posted. And I went back and I've seen some.
You broke up.
What, me?
Yeah. So you went, and what happened after that?
There was a post that G-Webs had put on Instagram, and I can't remember which one. I could probably find it real quick and look it up. But I had made a comment on there because the post was something about how either in England this is just a work day, or happy Insurrection Day or something, to that effect. There's a lot of those posts going around today on social media. And I had put a comment on that post, which was just the quote from the movie Quigley Down Under. If you've seen that movie, there's a scene where Tom Selleck, Matthew Quigley, is traveling across Australia, and they come across a group of cavalry soldiers, which are, of course, English soldiers there in Australia back in the 19th century. And so the English major is trying to get mouthy with Tom Selleck's character, and said, well, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not going to quote, but he's basically said, in my experience, Americans are nothing but a bunch of misfits that need to be run back to, or that need to be run out of the country, I think is what he says. And then Tom Selleck, with his typical, mustache smirk and his charm, says, in my country, we already ran out all the misfits. We sent them back to England. And then
snap!
And then he rides on. And so I think that pretty much sums up today in a nutshell right there. We already ran out all the misfits. We sent them back to England over 200 years ago. Now, I might have just offended someone who may or may not eventually see this from the UK. Please take that in jest. I understand that we're not still fighting. We are friends now. We've come to terms with.
We saved their asses. We saved their asses in World War I and World War II. So we kind of mended that whole fence. But we're still going to celebrate. We kicked them out of our country.
That's right. That's right. We're very happy that we are our own country now. So. And yeah, I think that is something that every country should celebrate, is their Independence Day, whichever day of the year that is. It's very, very important to do. Of course, no country is quite as free as this one, which is, again, what makes us the greatest country on the planet, past or present.
So if you do come over here from the UK or England or whatever you want to call it, whatever that part of the world is called now, I don't care. If you do come over, don't bring your voting habits, your political ideology, or your culture over and think that you can overwrite what's already here, because I got newsflash for you. You can't.
Well, I'm going to open that up to the whole world, not just England. I don't care who you are, but if you come to any different country and then expect that you're going to change that country and make it like home, if home is so great, stay put. If you really want to get to a different country and become a citizen, then that's fine. There's a reason you want to become a citizen of that country, and you should become a citizen of that country and not try and change that country to be more like home. And that's one of the biggest complaints that I have with people who immigrate into my country. I welcome everyone to my country who comes in legally and goes through the correct process to become American. But once you're American, that's what you are. If you're
not American, you're not your old country anymore.
You're not Canadian. You're not Albanian. You're not Mexican. You are American if you've become a citizen. And so bring your culture, because we are that great melting pot.
Okay. You can bring your culture.
Bring your culture,
to an extent.
But don't reshape our country. Our country is what it is because we've got so many cultures that can complement each other. And so, bring your great recipes from the old country and bring some of your customs, but just don't change the customs that are here, or don't come here and then say, well, my customs don't allow for this, so let's change the laws of the country to which I just came. Let's not do that.
Because if the laws and the customs were so great from your country, then why did you leave in the first place?
I agree, absolutely. So with that said, I absolutely am not against anyone immigrating. I absolutely am not against anyone from any other country. I have no problems with any nationality, with any culture, with any race. I just have a problem with people who break the law. We have laws on how you become a citizen. If you break those laws, you're a criminal. And I have a problem with criminals. That's all. So do it the right way, or don't do it at all.
Heck yeah.
So, America. It's getting a little more lively over in the chat. We've got a few people making some comments. Philo says, surprised not to see more lefty anti-American BS going around today. It's out there, but there's no organized hashtag. Idiots or anything. Maybe we're turning the tide. You know what? I don't know that it's necessarily that. I think maybe everybody has decided that we're all Americans, and it's a day to celebrate and not talk about our differences, but talk about what makes us. What makes this country great, and that's all of us. Let's talk about our common ground.
If the antis or the leftists do try and do something on Independence Day, I'm sorry, but if there's people in the middle who don't pander to the left or right, they're going to piss everybody that's not part of the left off, and that's a hell of a lot more people than just Republicans and Democrats.
That's true.
Let's piss off the rest of America besides ourselves. Yeah, that sounds like there's a word for that. Suicide.
Kinda, yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Anybody out there, including the two of us, we lost Midnight Range, and he said he was going to probably disappear because he's driving. So hopefully, once he gets home, he will be able to join us again from home. But Gary and Night Strike and anyone out in the chat too. Any big plans for the evening? Do you have big fireworks displays going on at your homes, or are you if you're traveling, are you going to just stay home and make it a quiet night? What's going on?
Me, I got to work tomorrow, so I got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. Usually our city has a fireworks display. If they do, I can see it out my front window. So it's a small town, and it's only about a half mile north of town. I can usually see it. I can definitely hear it. But usually with all the neighbors around here, all I got to do is go out and sit on the front porch or go out in the backyard, and I can see all the fireworks I care to see. These people take this stuff seriously. We got a guy down the street that spends about $500,000 a year on fireworks. He goes crazy.
Smokes.
Yeah, it's good and loud. You can hear it.
That's patriotism right there.
That's patriotism.
Now, you can get, I think, some better fireworks in Kansas than what I can here in Nebraska, if I'm not mistaken. I think that I used to live down on the Kansas border, and one of the fireworks stands that we went to was, it was about 2 miles from our house, but it was in Kansas. And they had stuff that legally I wasn't able to buy and bring home. Because you guys, the laws are a little bit different. What's legal in Kansas than in Nebraska? We're not that free of a state here when it comes to fireworks. So no bottle rockets, no, of course, M80s, cherry bombs. Those have been outlawed for years here. But
I don't think we have those either. But you can go across the border over to Missouri, and they have everything.
I am aware of that, and a lot of people I've talked to over the years have made that trip to Missouri and brought home some bootleg no-nos back to Nebraska. But I've heard if you're going to do that, because if I remember right, the fireworks stands are open all year too in Missouri.
Yes, they are.
If you're going to do that, and here at Sandhills Shooter, we cannot condone breaking laws, so don't bootleg fireworks, kids. But if you were going to do that, this is not the time of year to do it. The authorities set up checkpoints. They're looking for it this time of year. So if you were going to do such a thing, then sometime midwinter, midwinter would have been the time to have done it. But however, I cannot say enough times, do not break the laws with your fireworks. And if you do, don't get caught because you blew your thumb off because you were an idiot. Which brings me to another thing. Because this is my chat, and I can go down a rabbit hole if I want to. I've tried to kind of figure out a right way to make this video, and I've never found the right wording. So I'm just going to cover this here. It is my belief, and I have said this many times, just talking face-to-face conversations, and I think I may have said it a time or two online as well. It is my belief that if we could just eliminate warning labels, including the ones on fireworks, but all warning labels in general, we could really breed out the idiots within about 2 generations. So, I mean, if you're dumb enough to screw around with fireworks and get your thumb blown off or something like that, then, you know,
Probably
unless
shouldn't have been working with fireworks in the first place.
you shouldn't have been trusted with them to begin with, unless it's flat out it was made wrong at the factory, you know, and I mean their quality control must be amazing, because I don't hear about, you know, unsafe fireworks coming out and being sold in fireworks stands. But fireworks, or you know, the warning when you buy a fan belt in that little cardboard sleeve that holds the fan belt together there in the middle, it says make sure you turn the motor off before you change your fan belt, because clearly somebody needed that warning. You know, electrical appliances that say, hey, don't put this in the bathtub with you, you know, things like that. If we would just remove these warning labels and just kind of weed out some of the people that need to be told, you know, I'm just saying that's maybe we could let what is that, natural selection. It works in every other animal species. You know, the dumb ones and the sick ones, they're the ones that get killed off, and it's for the betterment of the herd. You know, so
Wow, that's harsh.
I'm just saying.
So I would like to make a note here. In the state of South Carolina, you can sell fireworks year round, and in fact, there is in the city I live in, there are 2 shops that are open year round that sell fireworks. They sell everything.
That's cool.
Anything that's not banned on a federal level, South Carolina can sell.
No, that's awesome. Over the
Whereas
chat,
some states ban particular fireworks. We don't
Like
ban
mine.
any fireworks.
my state bans all the really fun stuff.
If it's not banned on if it's banned on a federal level, we can't have it. But other than that, we're good.
So 2 things here, real quick. First off, Philo over in the chat here on YouTube is saying he loves the "Don't put your baby in a plastic bag" sticker. So yeah, again, that's kind of like here a while back. I saw, I think it was a video on YouTube that somebody had posted, and they were just enraged at the fact that this was even reported. But somebody actually on a newscast, somebody actually said, if you need to help remember that your kid's in the back seat, put your purse in the back seat or your backpack or something, and put your wallet in the back seat. So when you go to the store, you have to open the back door of the car to get it out, and you won't forget your child in the car when you go in. And that's kind of what made me think about this. That's what spurred this thought on, and why I was going to make a video about this, because if you have a child in your back seat and you can't remember to take them out of the car and take them into a store, then you should not be reproducing.
You get a serious problem if you forget that your kids are in the car.
I am not a parent. I don't have experience with having a kid in the back seat all the time. It's not normal for me. And even if I have a kid, even I was there, you know, even though it's not something I do every day, so I'm not used to it. If there's a kid in my car, I take the kid out of the car when I get out. I mean, nobody had to tell me that. You know,
it's always a good idea to take the kids out.
Well, it is. I mean, I think that there's laws against leaving them in the hot car and stuff, and so yeah. I mean, just that's kind of what started this whole rant to begin with, of the warning labels and things like that. But I'm thinking that the only way to get these people to stop reproducing is to remove the warning labels and just, you know, let natural selection take them out of the herd. So, but yeah, backseat reminders are a real thing. David Bowling remembers seeing a video on it. So yeah, absolutely. It's sad that we have to tell people that. That's kind of like, you know, nobody told me that I have to put the lid of the toilet up before I use the toilet, because I ought to be able to figure that out myself. So, but that kind of goes back to this. That's kind of the same mentality. If somebody has to tell you how to remember there's a kid in your back seat, I mean, you've got problems. You've got issues. So
It's kind of like the coffee at McDonald's with the warning that says, "Warning, contents can be extremely hot." I'm like, really?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, I'm suing McDonald's because nobody told me that hot coffee was going to be, it could burn me. It was hot.
And that's because the stupid people in California that sued.
Well, and it's not just California is the problem. So I'm not here to pick on any people in any one state. There's dumb people in every state in the union, I'm convinced, because I've seen a few.
You should pick
locally.
On California. It deserves it.
Well, we can, but there's good people, there's smart people in California. I know a few. So if California was ever to fall off into the ocean, I would want to get some of my friends out first, because our nation is better for them being in it. But excuse me, but we yeah, I don't know. Just and it's not California or Californians in general. It's the liberal mentality that I could do without, and there's just an awful lot of that there. That's all. So there's other parts of the world.
A lot of big cities, you're going to find it's that way. I mean, even here in Kansas, if you get up around Kansas City, Overland Park, and that area, I mean,
oh yeah,
the snowflakes are there.
And Nebraska's the same way. That's how Omaha is for the most part, and Lincoln to an extent. And then after that, you know, you get outside of Omaha and Lincoln, that's half of Nebraska's population right there.
Mm-hmm.
And our next largest town is between 50 and 60,000 people. So, I mean, and they just get smaller from there, you know. So there's not a ton of urban environments to have the liberal mindset, but typically the liberal mindset is in the big cities. The conservative mindset is in the more rural areas, as a rule. And I know that there's exceptions to the rule, but you know, there's of course there's conservatives in the big cities, and there's a few liberals out in the country, but they get run off pretty quick where I'm from. So
pretty much.
Kentucky says so many people are leaving California, land will be cheap. Yeah, but I doesn't mean I want to go buy any of it yet.
Nope. Nope. I'll stay right where I'm at.
Because if I bought land in California, I would turn into a hypocrite, because I would try and remodel California to my line of thinking. And I just got done saying how I don't like that idea. And so I wouldn't do that. If I was to go to a different place and live, I wouldn't do that to them either.
But you know, California, the problem with California is you've got some really huge cities there to where, you know, the majority of the people live close to these big cities, but they're not representative of the people who live out in the, you know, the balance of California, the people who tend the vineyards and work the farms. They've got farms just like everywhere else. Those are regular people. There's just not enough of them to make a difference, because there's so many of the big city dwellers that are far left and run the politics of the entire state. So, you know, to characterize all Californians as being that way, that's definitely not fair.
Exactly. And, you know, I don't get a chance to watch a lot of it anymore, but if I'm home and I'm flipping through channels and I can see that there is professional bull riding on, I think CBS Sports Network runs it a lot. If I see that's on, I usually stop and watch that a while, because I grew up watching rodeos, and, you know, I grew up moving cattle with horses and doing some cowboy work. And so I love watching rodeos, and I love watching bull riding. And it's hard to watch an event, no matter where they are. There's almost always one or two cowboys from California riding bulls there. So, I mean, I know that there's cowboys out in California, which means that there are other good salt of the earth, right-leaning people, again, and not just in California, in every state. But like you said, there's people who work in agriculture in California, just like there are here in Nebraska and in Kansas. So I know the whole state is not full of people that I wouldn't have much to talk about with. I know that there's good people out there. So yeah, we would want to have those people not fall off into the ocean and drift out to sea with the rest of them that we don't agree with. The best part about this country, we don't have to agree with them for them to be here. They don't have to agree with us for us to be here, because freedom, baby,
shall not be infringed.
Shall not be infringed.
Oh, yeah.
So, but yeah, that's just some of the stuff I wanted to kind of get off my chest there a little bit while I had a captive audience. And David Bowling makes a good point. Don't forget about the months of wildfires out in California. You could buy land out there cheap and then watch it burn. Right now, that's happening in Colorado too. And I don't know if there are wildfires in other states, but I know Colorado has some huge fires going on right now. I just want to mention anybody in Colorado. We hope that you're safe. I do have family out there who have some property in the mountains, and the fires are getting not super close to their property, but close enough that there's concern if the fire would get out of hand, it could go on their side of the mountain. So we don't want to see anybody lose their property, lose their home, or their vacation home, anything like that in Colorado. So hopefully everybody is staying safe, and we know that even though it's a holiday, there are firefighters out there working hard right now, while we're watching our fireworks and drinking our Pabst Blue Ribbon or Budweiser or whatever American drink that we want to imbibe in. There's people out there keeping a lot of people safe right now too. So not just our soldiers, but all of our responders, firefighters, policemen who don't get the day off. We hope you all get home safe tonight too.
Oh yeah.
So we're not just about the veterans. We're about the thin blue line and the thin red line and all the lines, all the stars, all the stripes. They're for all of us. So
I think about it all the time, about how I was just lucky enough to be born in the right place, because my life could be so much different if I wasn't an American. And I'm just damn glad that I am.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I hear that so often when I'm watching the news, and we're talking about, and the big thing we've all heard about, and I don't want to get into it too much here as far as the actual headlines, but the kids being separated from the parents, or the Trump administration being accused of ripping babies out of mothers' arms, and all the stuff that's actually happening, and some of that's been debunked as it's not as bad as they're making it seem, but some of it really is happening. It's the way that we have to treat some of these situations, and anytime we talk about the immigration problems or the issues, the illegal aliens, it feels to me sometimes like people are almost feeling a little guilty, like, well, we all got to be born here and live in a great country. Why shouldn't everybody have a chance to come and be part of this great country? And that's not at all how it works. Everybody has the opportunity to come and be part of our great country. But the fact of the matter is, there are how many 100 countries in the world? We're one of them. And we're not near the majority of the population of the earth here in our country. So there's so many more people that aren't born here. Well, and if they want to come here, again, we have laws that they have to follow in order to get here and to stay here.
I think of myself as an American, and I most certainly am, but you just go back 4 short generations, and my great-grandfather was born in France, on the border between France and Germany, where they fought back and forth, one government then the other government, and they were, totally infringed, as far as their religion and everything else. Finally, 3 of the brothers got fed up, got on a boat, and came to the United States and immigrated legally, assimilated in the United States, bought farms, got married, moved to Kansas, raised their families. But that's how you do it. I mean, legal immigration, come here and follow the laws and
absolutely
do everything the right way, and then you too can be Americans.
I have go ahead, Nice Strike.
I'm not gonna say it on air, but yeah, exactly.
Okay, I see Kevin Tack Daddy is over in the chat. Tad,
oh God,
do you want to join us? We have tack troll going on, Troll Daddy. Do you want a link? Because I don't know that you got one in the email, Kevin. But if you want to join us, you always make the conversation lively. And double A's out there. Anybody who wants a link, let me know, and I will get you one. Go check us out over on the Gun Channel side, and I will get that link over to you over there if that's what you're wanting. If you want to join us. So let me see here. Yeah, just hit me over on Gun Channels. Just throw me a private message, and go to Gun Channels / Sandhills Shooter. You can talk to me on there, but you hit me with a private message. I'll get you a link if you want to join us. So we would absolutely love to have more people sound off and talk to us. Here for the good time, he says. All right. Armament and Axes, if you want to join us, let me know, and we'll get you in here. Vanessa, any of you that want a link. I haven't had a chance really to keep everybody shouted out that's been talking, but we've had Philo, we've had David Bowling, Kane Tucky 64. Squib was here for a while, and I haven't seen him in a while. Uncle Dan popped his head in and had to leave again. Patrick, of course, Gizzard Gary is here, and in the chat. Who else do I have? ATX, Blockburner, Vanessa Kitty, Armament and Axes, Kevin the Tack Daddy. Who else do I have? Logic Rex. I think that's all of it so far. But thanks everybody for joining us. We do appreciate everybody being here on the Independence Day edition of Get Off My Lawn Chat. One of these days it's going to be decent weather. It was ungodly hot here, and I actually was thinking about starting this out sitting outside on my front step in the sunshine. I don't have a porch or a awning of any kind to hide from the sun, and I'd kind of thought about starting us out there anyway, and I just decided I like my air conditioning too much. And now looking out my window, it's about to rain. It's going to storm. The wind's coming up, so I would have been inside by now anyway. So
it's a balmy 94 degrees out here.
It's awful outside right now, but I'm thinking it may get cooler. It did rain earlier this morning. It stopped like at noon, so hopefully I might be able to go outside this evening and do some firecrackers or fireworks, or maybe take a rifle out or two.
Awesome.
The ultimate fireworks. Yeah.
The ultimate, yeah. Even though I had a whole lot of fun yesterday with friends because they came over and we shot a lot of firearms off. Mostly ARs, AKs, and the C308. I love that thing.
I had one of those once back when I didn't know anything and didn't know what I had, and actually gave it away as a gift to somebody, and I know it was appreciated. But I'd like to have that back now, knowing what I had. So
I buying that part at the Tulsa Gun Show fixed any problem I had with that C308. That just fixed everything. So
really,
yeah,
perfect, good deal. My WeatherBug app says it is all the way down to 73 degrees here now.
Wow!
So that's kind of nice. And the radar says that there is something nasty heading here. So to zoom that out a tad.
I better look at mine.
I don't know. I'm not going to screen share. I'll just have this up on my phone. But can you guys, will this focus? Probably not.
They say it's 82 out right now. I don't want to go outside yet.
Well, if anybody has a weather app with a radar map, just look at northeast Nebraska and look at that wall of stuff that's coming. And you'll see what's about to hit me. It's a pretty good size storm front coming in here. So
I'll wait about another hour.
Oh yeah. So
if I up and disappear, it's because I lost power and I lost internet. So
where are you at now?
I am in northeastern Nebraska. I'm about 2.5 hours or so back northwest of Omaha.
About Norfolk.
Yep, right up there.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff right up there. I see it.
Yep, it's coming right for us. So hopefully there's no tornadoes or anything bad, but if I lose internet, I can always turn my hotspot on my phone long enough to wrap up. I think we should be all right. Vanessa says she gets Texas weather 3 days after Texas gets it. Squib is back. You're always welcome to join us. Like I said, Squib. You want a link? Let me shoot you one here real quick. Gizzard, Night Strike, talk amongst yourselves while I do this, would you?
Okay. What's going on, Night Strike?
Everything's fine. Why? What?
Well, I heard you're having issues with GunTube.
Yeah, I am. I'm working on it right now, so that's why I'm kind of distant at the moment.
So restoring it or something? Did it crash?
The whole thing. I had to reinstall the operating system.
Oh, okay.
Operating system reinstall, and then I have to rebuild all the software from source. Because
Ouch.
that's how web hosting software is. You build it from source. You don't just install a program like you buy from a store. It doesn't work like that.
That is true.
And,
well, I wish you all the good luck. If luck helps you any, I wish you all that you can get.
Nah, just time. Just time.
All right. Squib has a link, hopefully in his inbox by now. So.
Vanessa,
All right.
We get Texas weather 3 days after they get it. And she's way up northeast.
Well, that's what I thought. I couldn't remember where Vanessa is, but isn't it
Connecticut, I believe.
Yeah. That's what I thought. And Squib is in the house.
Hey,
Mr.
Squib.
Walker Colt himself, how are you? Your camera's on, but your mute is on too. There you are.
Yep. Hey.
What's going on, sir?
There you go.
That is a lovely
Oh,
railroad
just-
track.
Yeah, it is. I already posted a train video today.
Now, is that your yard? Do you live right on the tracks like that, or where are you? What are you doing?
Yeah. The railroad goes through the backyard.
Okay. Alrighty. So
I'm
now,
sure some stalker could figure out if they Google mapped enough and go, oh, that's where you live. Yeah, come on over. Whatever. Just bring some beer. So.
I gotta say, anybody who's got that kind of time to Google Map every square foot of railroad track in the state of Michigan, if they can find your house by doing that, then you've got a bigger stalker. I mean, you've got more fish to fry than just the fact that they want to come knock on the door.
Well, see, the fact that I'm actually that unpopular means I'll never have a stalker, so I'm good to go. So there's a reason. There's a reason for being a big a-hole. Because nobody's going to want to be your friend. That's a good thing.
Is that how we're justifying it now?
You haven't been up to this point?
Well,
let me tell you. So
have I been a big a-hole? Yes. Have I justified it like that? No. But I'm about to start.
Are you sure just the fact that you live in the middle of nowhere, that nobody could find you because you're so far away from anything?
Well, that is true, and that's one of the reasons I stay here.
Like somebody would get halfway there and go, man, forget this. I'm going back because it's just too far to drive.
It's too far. Yeah. And that's, that's why I say that we're one of the best kept secrets in the nation, because there are a lot of people who have never been to Nebraska and have only seen pictures or, the way we're portrayed in movies, which there's an awful lot of corn and one hill and 3 trees, and that's it, and it's flat. And you've been here, you know that that's absolutely not true. Now, driving out to Travis's place, you're going to take the interstate, and yeah, you're going to see a lot of flat ground. But if you get off that interstate and drive north to south or south to north in Nebraska, just about any road you pick, you're going to see tons of hills, tons of rivers. We've got lakes, we've got trees, we've got great deer hunting, great pheasant hunting, great fishing, great people, where if you get a flat tire in the middle of nowhere, somebody's going to stop. And don't be alarmed, in the state of Nebraska, if somebody pulls up behind you when you're changing a tire because they're just going to help. That's how Nebraskans are. So,
yeah, I will say this. I didn't get off the expressway in too many places. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 places in Nebraska. The second time I went there, which was when I went to go see Travis. And what I saw, it was kind of like, this is hidden, right? It's not common knowledge. It's not, if you drive far enough off the expressway, it might be a mile. It might be 50 miles. You definitely get to see a lot. If you're into trains, go to Nebraska. You guys have a big boy and a Challenger in the same state, opposite ends, but you have the two most powerful locomotives, steam locomotives, ever in the same state. That's awesome. And there's railroads all over the place.
Not only that,
I mean, you've got some decent.
We have the biggest railroad yard, I believe, for sure in the U.S., if not the world. But the UP yard out in North Platte, Nebraska, is the biggest railroad yard in the country.
Yeah, but I will tell you this: I didn't drive all throughout North Platte, but when I was there, it was kind of ghetto, dude.
Oh, it's ghetto as hell.
And that's just it. You think of Nebraska, right? And you think of a bunch of, and then you're going through this town that's really kind of run down after you get past the couple restaurants that are right on the expressway, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm looking around and I'm going, this is Flint, Michigan, and it's just like, whatever. But okay, sure.
Okay, if you're in Flint, Michigan, do us a favor. Don't drink the water.
Dude, okay, so let me tell you something. Flint, Michigan is 35 minutes up the road. There are a handful of houses actually affected by the water. Most of the city is not affected by the water. Just like lying about gun facts, the media took the story and ran with it. Just like when a cop shoots somebody and it's not really a justified, shooting, the media takes that and goes bananas with that, and then all cops are bad guys, whatever it is, right? I will tell you that although Flint, Michigan is not necessarily someplace I'd want to move to, it's not really that dangerous. It is run down. It's a shell of what it used to be.
Cliff,
it used
I'm
to be
only thinking of your health. I don't want you to get lead poisoning.
But that's just it. Only a small amount of houses actually within the city limits are affected by that. The rest of the houses and everything outside of it are not. But the media, in their benevolence, right, wants a story, and they'll lie and exaggerate, and the rest of the nation doesn't, because they don't even know where Flint, Michigan is, right? So when you hear about, I'm sure if somebody had a story about something in Charleston, Night Strike, you would know whether or not it's legit or not, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And if somebody in San Francisco was watching the national news and going, "Oh my goodness, Charleston is blah blah blah," you'd be like, "No, dude, no, that's a load of crap." I'm not saying Flint is a nice place to visit. It really isn't. But yeah, the lead is only a few houses.
Well, that's too bad, because me and Smeggy were trying to think about getting one of those houses with lead so that we could smelt that water down into bullets.
Yeah, let me know how that goes. So
that's going to take a lot of water.
North Platte is in western Nebraska, and it's off the expressway. And you're thinking, okay, it's Nebraska. It's all like cornfields and all this. And you're going through, it's a town. I mean, I wouldn't call it a city. I know it's probably officially a city, but I'd call it a town. And it is like really, it's run down and it's kind of ghetto. And you're there going, wait a minute. Ain't this supposed to be a bunch of rednecks with pickup trucks, right? No, it is not like that there at all, And
that's one of the things about North Platte. It's one of the oldest towns that we have, though. So there is a very old part of town, and there's other parts of North Platte that are beautiful. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's nice neighborhoods. There's older, rundown neighborhoods, and the town's been around longer than some of the towns that we have here in the state, because it's always been along the railroad, along the Oregon Trail, along the Platte River, So I mean, it's been a town for a long time. North Platte and Ogallala were both cow towns to start with. Buffalo Bill Cody actually has a ranch, had a ranch. It's still there, out west of town. And so between the railroad and then Cattle, yeah, it's been a town for a long time, and it's always been for Nebraska. It's a good sized town. It's one of the bigger ones, and when I say that, it's not just the people that live there, it's the people that trade there. And that's the thing about, I'm sure, most of the country, but in Nebraska you'll have a town that really isn't all that big, and then you'll have people that drive 100 miles to get to that town, to get groceries, to go to Walmart, to do that kind of stuff. And it's not uncommon in Nebraska to drive 2.5, 3 hours, not regularly, but if you want to go to Walmart, there aren't that many of them in the state. And so we don't have them every 5 miles here. And so it's nothing to make a day trip to a town that's got Walmart, a Menards or a Home Depot, something like that, and do all of your shopping in one day, load the pickup up and come home.
Right. And see, I learned about that sort of lifestyle when I was a kid, and then later as an adult, going to visit our family farm down in Kentucky. You go there for a week and a half, 2 weeks, right? And that's what you do. The nearest city, town, well, it was really town, it's 45 minutes one way, and Western Kentucky. And so you would do the same thing. You would hit all the stores that you're going to hit. You'd hit the Lowe's, you'd hit the Walmart, you hit the gun store, whatever it is you were going to do, all in one day, because it's 45 minutes one way. Whereas I live in Southeast Michigan, and if you say, well, I'm from Waterford, they go, well, where's Waterford, right? But if you say you're from Detroit, they know Detroit's down in Southeast Michigan. Well, the thing is, people usually take a couple steps back when you say Detroit, because they think you actually live in a hood.
No,
Detroit,
they think that you're armed or there's a sniper behind you.
I don't know about that. But Detroit is 35 minutes south, and Flint is 35 minutes north. But the metro area around Detroit is about 4 to 5 counties of suburbs. So even some suburbs are kind of rural, like the one I'm in is kind of rural, but it's still a suburb. I mean, we're big. We got an international airport here, for Pete's sakes, right? So
that doesn't mean anything.
You're talking about a Walmart every 5 miles. We literally have a Walmart every 5 miles here. I mean, I think we've got like 3 or 4 McDonald's in this township alone. We used to have 2 Kmart's in this township. So I have enough urban living that pretty much everything is within walking distance, let alone driving distance. And it's like that all throughout the area around Detroit. But if you go down to where half my family's from in Kentucky, it's a 45-minute drive to get to really anything. And yeah, I saw some of that out in Nebraska, where I could see somebody driving 1 to 2 hours to get to the town that has everything that you need. You spend the day there, you load up, you drive back, and then you don't go out for another week or two. Yeah, but for somebody who lives in an area like where I live right now, that's a foreign concept.
Yep, exactly. And see, that's where I grew up. It was a half an hour drive just to get to town. Any town. And this was a town, if I went one direction, and the town we went most of the time was right across the state line into South Dakota, because I grew up on that state line. And so we would go to South Dakota most of the time to get groceries, go to Napa, things like that. And it was a town of roughly 1,500 people. And if we went to the other direction, the town where I went to high school and where the courthouse was, they're 25 miles from where the ranch was. I mean, that's a town of, at the time, 300 to 320, and now it's fewer than that. It's 250 or right around in there. It's lost a lot of people. Honestly, I think 250, they're counting feet, probably not heads, but or goats and chickens could be in that tally too. But I mean, that's just it. We had to drive a half hour to get to a little town, to get to any grocery store, to get to any gas tank or gas pump, except for, out there, everybody has gas barrels out on the ranch. And then you have to make sure you don't fill up out of the wrong tank, because you've got, those of you with diesel vehicles understand this. There's highway diesel and there's off-road diesel. And with gasoline, there's 2 kinds as well. If you have gas barrels, there's the cheap stuff that is for farm use, and there's a tax refund on it. Or you pay the full amount of taxes and fill up a barrel, and that's what you can put in the car to go down the road.
Well, it isn't just that. You've got the stations that are gas only. And then you got the other stations that have gas and diesel. So you may have to drive 5 more miles to get to that one that also has diesel.
That's right.
You know?
Or if you drive a diesel, which in the country, at least where I come from, almost everybody does. And if the pickup isn't, then the tractors are. So, I mean, there's again the difference between your highway diesel and your the stuff that's dyed red. But if you find a co-op, and every town's got a co-op, then they're going to have diesel, because that's usually who's hauling it out to your barrels. But yeah, you're right. Not every gas station, and maybe in the bigger towns especially. Again, rural Nebraska, almost every gas station that you find is going to have a diesel pump, because so many diesel vehicles on the road. So it's more common here to just make sure you pull up to the pump that doesn't have the green nozzle on it. But yeah, truck stops and co-ops all have a diesel pump. So there's a lot of those everywhere across Nebraska. It's not such a big issue, but maybe it is where you are, where not as many people are driving big diesel pickups.
Well, the reason I bring up some of this stuff is because some of your listeners may not have grown up that way, or may not live there. They may live in the same place that they were brought home from the hospital in, and they've never lived anywhere else. Visiting is one thing. Living there is another thing. When I visit, though, I do notice stuff. Maybe it's because I've lived so many places, like Night Strike. I've moved around a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe I notice more because I used to stay put. But for some people, they only know one way of life. They only know one dialect. They only know one major influence to the economy in the area, whatever it is. And they don't realize that other Americans across the country live differently. And it's not that they're doing anything wrong. It's just the way it is there. People need to get out more and experience more, I think, to be a more well-rounded person and appreciate a lot of the great values that are still in this country. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And see, that's one of the things growing up where I did. Travis and I make jokes all the time about how, we just got electricity and hopefully next week we get plumbing. And we joke about that. But honestly, I mean, I grew up, now I didn't have a satellite dish in my house until I was in high school. But I was aware of, some of the, even if it's a channel that we didn't get, like growing up, I didn't have access to any show on NBC or Fox. But I was aware of Friends. I was aware of 90210. I mean, I didn't live under a complete rock. We watched movies, and we had TV shows, we had radio. We were aware of the outside world, and maybe fashion took an extra 6 months to a year to get out to us. But at the same time, I mean, we knew about what was happening in the big city areas. But you're right. I think the opposite isn't the case. Like, people would come out, and I have cousins, that lived in different states, Colorado, Minnesota. Sometimes they'd bring friends with them when they'd come visit my grandparents. And my grandparents lived just through the trees, or rather, I grew up just across the trees from my grandparents on the same ranch. My granddad bought that ranch back in the 50s, and then my dad took it over. And so my grandparents still lived out there when I was a kid, and I'd get aunts and uncles and cousins would come back to visit, and we would always be right there too. And sometimes my cousins would bring friends, and they would scare them all the way out. Well, when we get to grandma's house, they don't have indoor plumbing. You have to use the outhouse, and they don't have electricity, so we have to use lanterns. And they'd always tease people, and they'd get there and they'd be like, "What? You have electricity here? You guys have a computer?" I mean, it's just everybody was willing to believe that we were, ding, 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 ding. And that's not how I grew up, But at the same time, there are a lot of people who still don't understand what it's like to be in rural America. And I think it's getting better, because I think that some of the, I don't know, the rural culture, do I want to say, but the kind of the redneck culture, it's growing in popularity, and
but there's
country scene, and that's just it. The country scene, but still, everybody thinks that you live out in the country and all you do is drink Bud Light and go mudding and get your pickup dirty. And I had somebody here recently ask me if I've ever been mudding, and I said, yeah, I've been mudding. The thing is, the people that take their pickup out and go drive through the mud and get it all dirty and see if they can get it stuck just for fun aren't country boys. A country boy goes mudding because he's on one side of a mud hole and where he's going is on the other side of the mud hole, and there's no option but to go through it. So
it's like the people who live in the city have always lived in the city and will never live in the country, but they listen to country music. They dress in the clothes that they're supposed to for, the Stetson and the duster and the cowboy boots, but they don't know how to ride a horse. They don't own a pickup truck and never will. I'm a real pickup truck, not some pretty boy pickup truck. They don't know anything about roughing it. They don't know, they're anti-gun, whatever it is, right? And it's like, you're a poser.
It is, yeah. There's a term in Nebraska, we call that a drugstore cowboy or a concrete cowboy.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot of different names and there's a lot of different people that maybe have that going on. Real quick, David Bowling is asking, what kind of job do I have right now? Midnight Range TM says I shoot Sandhills for a living. When I go home and I go shooting, a lot of the time the bullet does have a hill made of sand for a backstop. But no, right now I work for a cell phone carrier. I sell phones for a living in a corporate-owned store. Not a company that you guys have ever heard of because we're a regional carrier. We're based in Colorado, and we've got just towers in Colorado, Nebraska, some in Kansas, some in Wyoming, but not too many. And so, and again, I don't usually mention my company's name just because there's not that many people in the company that know I do this, and I just try to keep some of my political beliefs separate from work. That's a good way to get excused from your job, is if you let them spill over sometimes. So I try to keep them separate.
Nothing wrong with being practical.
That's right. Being practical that's one of the things when you work in sales or any industry where you deal with the public. Politics and religion are subjects that we're told to stay away from. Now, I don't agree with that personally. I think that we need to discuss it and figure out where we agree, where we disagree, and agree to disagree on some stuff and celebrate.
Well, how about if you let the customer bring it up first? And if they don't bring up politics or religion, then you don't bring it up, right?
I don't, and I try to derail the conversation just because sometimes it's where I'm working and where I'm on the clock. I'm not salaried. I get paid by the hour, and I don't get paid by the hour to discuss politics or my personal beliefs, or that I have a YouTube channel. My boss does not pay me to do that stuff. And so that's why I just keep them separate. And when I'm in the car going live, I know sometimes the camera picks up my logo on my shirt. I try to keep that out of the frame as much as I can, just because, again, I try to keep them separate. But Matt, you are here. What's going on, sir?
Sorry, I guess it would help if I unmuted myself. What's up?
Go ahead and unmute if you want to talk. That's how we do it here.
Yeah, I know. Usually helps, doesn't it?
I don't know if you caught the beginning of the chat. Probably not.
But I just checked my email and saw that you were doing one, and I'm sitting here. I just happen to be sitting here getting ready to start mine up in a little while, and so I thought I'd hop on while I'm doing that.
Heck yeah. Real quick here, the rest of us have gone through, and I guess Squib, I didn't ask you about this either. So we'll have Matt go and Squib too. Real quick, we started off the show just talking about what freedom means to us. And then, Matt, I believe you are not a veteran, right? And I know, Squib, you are. And so, if Matt, I guess if you have any family members who are serving or did serve, who are they? And then, Squib, I want to get your perspective, because I want a veteran's perspective on freedom and what that means to you, having actually served in our military and been part of the reason why I am free. So, Matt, we'll go ahead and start with you, and then we'll go to Squib.
Like, who do I know in the military? Like,
do you have family members? Because you didn't serve, right?
I have in the past, but not, ones that I was very close to. Just growing up with divorced parents, I didn't get to hang out with, some of my cousins and stuff. But currently my nephew is in the Marines, and in fact, he's coming back on the 17th. He joined up as soon as he got out of high school, which was 2 years ago. he hasn't been in for very long.
Okay.
He's stationed over. He's in Japan right now, but he's basically he as soon as he got in there, they went straight over to the South Pacific, and that area over there, but just mainly because of North Korea. But sorry, I'm getting text messages here from Travis who's texting me asking me about food places in Dallas because he's out of town in Dallas right now.
I knew he was. He
keeps texting me. He's okay. What about this place? So just go to Brahms. They're good, delicious burgers. Have fun. Anyway, what does freedom mean? Is that the other question?
It's Independence Day. So what does independence and what does freedom mean? The fact that we're in a free country. Just real quick, what does freedom mean to you?
Oh man, that's a huge question.
I know.
I think it's unfortunately to me. I try to remember what it is and what it means because it's very easy to forget when you're born here. And I'm sure we all do forget it at times that we, despite the haters and despite the problems that we currently have, we do live in the best damn country in the world, best damn country of all time that has ever been created. We have the most perfect form of government ever created. Even when we complain about it and bitch about it, and even when it does go wrong, it's still better than everywhere else and everywhere that has ever been. And so, as far as what it means to me, outside of the obvious, appreciating the individual freedom and liberty and the ability for us to, do what we want to do, say what we want to say. And no, I'm not talking about the Addams Family song, but, and as long as we're not infringing on other people's rights, that freedom we have to do that nobody else has, and it's so easy to forget. And I think this is a large problem with a lot of the problems that we have today with, look at the millennials and look at a lot of these, what do we call them? Snowflakes and social justice warriors and all these people. They've never dealt with real hardship, and they don't appreciate the freedom so much so that they want to get rid of it. And I think that's a shame because individual freedom and liberty, I think, is the most important part of everything. It's the most important part of the founding of our country, of our everyday lives, of everything. Because when you have that, you can do anything, and you can make a great life for yourself, or you can, whatever you want to do. And I think that's the fundamental foundational principle that our country is built upon, is just individual freedom and liberty. And more of us need to remember that and stop fighting and whining about shit all the time and trying to change our form of government. And if you want to live a certain way, just go live that way. Stop trying to force your crap on me. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, we talked about kind of all of that here a while ago. All right, Squib, I want to hear from you. Like I said, you've got a different perspective than the rest of us who are here. So as an American and a veteran, what does freedom mean to you? And where did that sense of duty or patriotism come from that made you decide that you were going to be one of the reasons why we're in a free country today?
When I enlisted because my dad was in for 22 years, and I said, if Dad can do it, I can do it. When I enlisted, I had something to prove. I wanted to be a badass, and I wanted to see if I could be part of the most powerful military force in the history of this planet. When I enlisted, I just had something to prove to myself. I kind of also wanted to get out and do my own thing, and that would allow that. I wanted to be a man. I had 3 Marines and a sailor tell me the Marine Corps will not make you a man. You will make yourself a man. They might give you a better opportunity to make a man of yourself sooner, but you are the one that's going to make yourself a man no matter what. So I didn't go in there waving a flag, singing, America the Beautiful and all the other stuff. Now, I thought I was patriotic before I joined. No. I learned the love of my country while I was in. What Matt said, I was shaking my head the whole time I was nodding. Matt said the same thing that I would have said if you had picked me to go first. But what he said, I learned that in Mogadishu. I didn't learn that in San Diego. I didn't learn that in Lansing. I didn't learn that in Raleigh. When you go overseas and you see how these people live, not just even the third world countries where they're having a war, but even these first and second world countries where they're air quotes civilized people, when you're on liberty and you visit these, they're not free. They're not free like us. And you get to appreciate what we have. When we got back to the world on the deployment I took overseas, I made sure I was on the first helicopter to come back to the base. And I got on helicopter last so I'd get off first. And when I got off, I knelt down and I actually kissed the concrete tarmac like the Pope does when he gets off the airplane because I missed America that much. I had to go to 2 war zones to do that. I was young, thought I knew everything, and I didn't. And I think that as a veteran, I fought for everybody's right to burn the flag, even though I'd love to deck them for doing it, but they have the right to do it. I fought for everybody's right to complain about this country, even though what Matt said is true. We are the greatest country in the history of this world. And even though we have our problems, we still do it better than everybody else. And we do. And I fought for that. And I still think people have the right to complain. I think people have the right to desecrate our national symbol. I think because we are the greatest country in the world, people can do that. I don't like it. It triggers me. But that's what I was over there fighting for, even though you could say, well, Somalia had nothing to do with America. Bosnia had nothing to do with bullcrap. We're a global, it's a global economy today. It's a global environment today. And we are the world's police force. We are the leader in the world now. We're the only superpower. People say Russia's a superpower. Russia is not a superpower. We are the only superpower left. If you haven't traveled the world, and done more than just sightseeing, gone to the safe tourist areas, if you haven't really appreciated what you have here, good or bad, because overseas, they don't even know what that is, you really don't understand. And I think that's what Matt was trying to explain. And I know that there are other people that enlisted in the military because they needed a paycheck. They enlisted in the military to get out of their dad's house. They enlisted in the military because they saw the recruiting posters and thought they could be that, Rambo or Chuck Norris. They enlisted in the military to travel the world. They enlisted in the military to get military benefits that would follow them for the rest of their life. Those are all practical things. But the reality is those people gave up a lot, whether it be losing their marriage, not seeing their kids grow up, going overseas and watching their friends die, even in a training accident. You wouldn't even think. I mean, lots of people think, only people that die in the military die in combat. They die in training accidents because you train like you fight, you'll fight like you train. All those people in the background keep us free. But they don't, there aren't a whole lot of veterans I've met that, the guys on the side of the road that had that sign that says, homeless veteran, please help, they're probably liars. Veterans have a lot more pride than that. Most of them. I mean, there's dirt bags in everything. There's not everybody's, it doesn't matter what job you do or how old you are. But we do what we do, not necessarily because we're patriots, but when we're done with our length of service, we come out more patriotic than ever.
Okay. So yeah, very well said, both of you. When you were saying that, Squib, it made me think of something that I actually saw a long time ago, and it's crazy how over the years, it's, of course, like I said before, I'm not a veteran. I didn't serve in the military myself, but one of the reasons why I have such a respect for those of you who did. And I know this might sound crazy, but stick with me on this. Back when I was still a kid, I saw the movie First Blood Part 2, Rambo, Sylvester Stallone. And I understand that most of that is Hollywood, and that's not what I want to talk about. But at the very end of that movie, when Rambo gets the whole helicopter load of POWs, safely away from the prison camp and back to the American camp there, and the movie's about to end, and his colonel is there, Troutman, and is he's talking to them, and he says, well, you're going to get a second Medal of Honor for this, and Rambo says, I don't want it, you should give it to those guys, they've earned it. And Troutman says, well, you don't belong over here, why don't you come home with me? And Rambo says, back to what? My friends died here and a piece of me did too. Now, this is the part that's always stuck with me, because and I'm reading this quote here off of a website, but Troutman says, the whole conflict may have been wrong, but damn it, don't hate your country for it. Rambo says, hate? I'd die for it. Troutman says, then what is it you want? And Rambo says, I want what they want. And every other guy who came over here and spilled his guts and gave everything he had wants for our country to love us as much as we love it. That's what I want. And I can't even read that without being emotional. That has stuck with me since the first time I saw that movie. And I think that was probably the best part of the whole show. That put it into perspective for, a 16-year-old kid watching a movie. And I understand that the men and women who came home from that war, it's different now. We do respect as a whole, I think, as a people, we do respect our soldiers more now than the people who came home from Vietnam were treated. But ever since then, that's always stuck with me. And when I see a soldier or a veteran, I do not pass up a chance to shake their hand and just thank them for their service, because I want you folks to know that there are people here who didn't serve, who love you as much as you love us.
So there's a lot of things that come to mind when you say that. The first thing is, and I'm not endorsing this as a good movie, but you've seen the movie A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise?
Yeah, once, a long time ago.
So the one lawyer says, why do you want to protect them? They're bullies. And the other lawyer says, because every night they get on a wall and they say, not tonight, not on my watch. I'm going to keep you safe. And every time I hear that line in that movie, not that I watch it that often, I've seen it like 4 times, but each time I've heard it, I get this chill down my spine. And that's kind of the feeling I got once I got out to the fleet of what we were doing. So we had a situation where we got 2 months of rain in California, unheard of, right? And it flooded the river, burst the levee, the water come rolling down the hill and flooded the airbase and took out the helicopters. And we spent months not only rebuilding the hangars, but tearing the helicopters down to frames and cleaning every ounce of mud out of there, fixing everything that was wrong, testing them, and then flying them. And we put every aircraft in the air, and we flew around 3 Marine Corps air stations with them and brought them back. And they'd never had every aircraft up at the same time. It just doesn't happen. And they interviewed one of the Marines for the local station, and he said, here they are, running and turning, ready to go to war, just in case. Yep. And that's just it, just in case. When I was a kid growing up, Dad came back from Vietnam, and the first thing he did was make me. So I was only alive as a baby for the last couple of years of the Vietnam War. And I remember when they bombed the barracks in Beirut, and I remember when we bombed Gaddafi, and I remember things like that. I remember when they took the Americans hostage in Iran and things like that. But overall, we were in air quotes peacetime, even though it was still the Cold War. But we were always ready to go to war just in case. Just in case. And so if you think of somebody who's a cook or a supply clerk or a truck driver, or you think of somebody that they served their 2 years or 4 years or 5 years or 20 years, and there was no war going on that whole time, and you think that they didn't put in just as much as a guy who went to Afghanistan 6 times, I don't think you're looking at it with the right perspective. You're ready to go to war just in case, or you're going to war. I mean, when we were in the Mediterranean Sea, we were headed towards Haifa, Israel, and everybody was talking about how cheap the diamonds were there, and that's where you want to get an engagement ring and stuff, and then they get over to 1MC, that's the intercom system, and they go, you might have noticed we're heading south, we're going to the Suez Canal, we're going down to Somalia, the Army's had some problems down there, and we got to go help them out. It's right after Black Hawk Down, right? The gunnery sergeant looks over at me and he goes, "Well, Squib, guess we're going to war." And I knew right then and there that was it, right? And I started thinking about the times that my dad told me about Vietnam. Dad served in Vietnam. He's a bad mother, all right? He did what he had to do. But he was a teenager and he wanted to join the military and go to war and be a hero and all the other stuff. When he got over there, he saw what war really was. But when I got over to Somalia and Bosnia, I saw what war really was. Now, absolutely not even an iota of what Dad did in Vietnam. I'm not knocking that at all. But I remember when we were in Somalia, I'm going, what are we fighting over here for? These people don't care about each other. What are we over here dying for? And it made me wonder, did Dad think this when he was in Vietnam? These people don't care about each other. Why are we here? We're here to stop communism. We're here to stop terrorism. We're here to help nation build future allies so that they don't jump on the side of the terrorists or the communists or whoever and turn against us in the future. And some people want to go out there and they want to protest and they want to think that they're doing the right thing, but they're not looking at the world strategically. And I know that's hard to do if you're not overseas and you're not fighting. But sometimes America sticks its nose into things that people say is not its business so that 30 years later, we don't go to war. I know that sounds stupid, but unless you've been there, that's what we do. Now, sometimes we stick our nose into other people's business, and 30 years later, it causes a war too. So don't think that I'm so stupid I don't realize that. But for the people out there who've never served and they've never been overseas and they've never missed their family and they've never watched their buddies die and they've never watched us spend $1 million a day on something and everything, you got to understand there's a strategic reason for it, and it's based off of our history. It's based off of the knowledge that our leaders have, the things that are not just taught in college, but the things that these military leaders know from our past experience. One of the things they teach us in boot camp is the history of the Marine Corps. It's so not only so that we learn military lessons that we might apply in modern days, it's also we realize the sacrifices these people made before we were ever a thought. And if we can't be as tough as them, what are we doing in this uniform? So just understand that America is not perfect. And we have a global presence that we just cannot turn our back on. We can't go isolate. As much as I'd like to, we can't be isolationists.
Right.
Understand that some of the things that we do as America, our country as a whole, whether you agree with it or not, there's a reason for it.
Well, and let's not forget, back in the 40s, we tried to stay out of it. We were not going to put our nose where it may or may not have belonged. And that fight was brought to us. And Japan decided that they should poke the sleeping bear. And because of that, we entered that war. And we went to both theaters, the Pacific and the European theater. And we, once and for all, said, we didn't start this fight, but we're dang sure going to end it. And so we did that. And ever since then, we have not wanted to see that happen on a scale like that. And I think that is where most of our leaders have come from, was looking back at that, the war to end all wars. And it didn't end all wars. And so we don't want another world war ever. And we try to derail them, I think, before they get that bad. And I think that's a lot of what we're doing. And like you said, we don't want to have a war 30 years from now or 50 years from now with a communist nation if we could stop it, nip it in the bud ahead of time. So I think that's a lot of it. But
when you got somebody who went to college and their professor told them this, and that must be the way, and that's all, and they never served, and they never studied military history, they never really studied American history objective. They only studied it from one point of view. They don't understand, and it frustrates me. But on the other hand, it's not everybody doesn't know, everybody doesn't realize. It took a lot of thinking for me to realize that. Like I said, I'm over in Mogadishu and I'm there thinking to myself, is this what Dad was thinking when he was in Vietnam? Is this what he was thinking when he was in Da Nang? What are we over here fighting for? These people hate each other. They don't care about each other. They treat each other like animals. I don't know. I never did stop that. He's not dead, so I guess I could ask him. But I never asked him that. I mean, that was 25 years ago I thought this thought. So it's not really so much about just paying homage to veterans and all this other stuff. It's about stopping to think about what makes this country great and about the fact that our leaders are not perfect. They're not benevolent. They're not perfect. They're not. But on the other hand, there's two sides to every argument. What did Dad say? You know, two wrongs don't necessarily make a right, or there's three versions, your version, my version, and the truth. And the thing is, sometimes the truth doesn't come out until it's declassified 70 years later or whatever it is. We're finding out things about World War I and World War II that nobody knew because they were classified. And they're in a documentary on the History Channel, right? So for those people out there that hate this country because their college professor told them to, or something like that, if you're really that smart, if you really, really think you're that smart and you really want to tell everybody how educated you are because you got a master's degree from University X, then read both sides and really, really get to understand that. And, you know, I don't understand why somebody wouldn't want to join the military, but I grew up in it. I was born on a Marine Corps air station in Japan and grew up around the military. So maybe for somebody who's never been around the military and stuff, I just, it's a foreign concept to me why a young man wouldn't want to enlist. But on the other hand, there isn't room for everybody, and it's not really for everybody. I'd rather people enlist voluntarily than be drafted. Conscripts do not always make the best military. That's one of the reasons we're able to beat our enemies. It's because there are a lot of conscripts. But I will say this, though. If you're young and you're on the fence about it, if you don't have kids and you're not really serious about your girlfriend or you're not married or something like that, go. Do 4 years. If you don't like it, when your 4 years is up, get out. There's even some cases where you can just do 2 years. In the Army and the Navy, you can go in for 2 years. Do 2 years. Just try it out. Travel the world, learn how to use a firearm, learn some stuff about being a leader, learn some stuff about yourself, get to see other places in the country, get to meet other people, make friends for life. Just go do it. And it's not going to hurt. It's not. If anything, you're going to come out a little bit stronger mentally, a little bit stronger physically. If it's not for you, then it's not for you. Don't waste our country's money and your time. But
well, and I can tell you personally, and those of you that have met me or seen me more than just my head in some of these videos, you're aware of this. But I grew up a fat kid, and it hasn't changed a whole lot since then. But I didn't play sports in school. I was not in shape, and I didn't. I mean, the thought of joining the military, you know, and being whipped into shape and running and all that, that was probably the biggest reason I didn't enlist to begin with. And that's not necessarily a good reason, but it's the truth, and I'll own up to it now. But the thing is, if I could go back now and make that decision over, I'd get myself in shape. I would have considered it.
You wouldn't have to. We had guys that showed up that were underweight. We had guys that show up that were overweight. You remember Gomer Pyle in Full Metal Jacket?
Oh, yeah. We
had Gomer Pyle in our platoon, literally. We called him Eggman, okay? Somebody's lighting off firecrackers in the background. Okay, enough.
Freedom, baby.
Anyhow, yeah, it is. So, and you know, some days I don't know if they're lighting off firecrackers or it's a gun club down the street. But, so, that's just it. We had lots of guys that were nerds. They were dorks. They weren't jocks. Everybody thinks of Marines as a 6 foot tall or 6'2", 6'4" guy that's 250 pounds, bulking muscle, the quarterback on the football team, and just the biggest stud and badass and blah, blah. We had guys that had never shot a gun before. More than half the platoon had never pulled the trigger. Most of the guys were dorks. Most of the guys were out of shape. There were only a few jocks in our platoon in boot camp. There were only a few Boy Scouts in our platoon in boot camp. They will break you down to nothing and turn you into a Marine. Now, what you choose to do with that is another thing. We had people out in the fleet, we called them shitbirds. These were people that once they got in, they decided they didn't want to be in and they were going to do everything in their power to get out. And it's sad for them because they missed out on something good. But some of them made it into the fleet, they got promoted, blah, 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 and they were trying their best to get out before their 4 years or 5 years or 6 years were up. But with the exception of those, they break you down to nothing. Now, there might be some physical limitations, or you might be so dumb, believe it or not, even for the Marine Corps, that you can't even pass an ASVAB test. But and I'm saying this for anybody who's out there who's young enough to enlist still, because I'm too old to go back.
Sure.
Right. But if the phone call rang and Donald Trump was like, "We need you," all right, I'm there. But if you're young and you're thinking about it and you're like, "I'm too dorky, I'm too nerdy, I'm not a jock, I'm not the quarterback, I'm not popular, I can't run fast, I'm overweight, I'm underweight, I'm too short, I'm too tall, go down and see a recruiter, and don't take everything they say as the truth, because they do lie to get you in, but just understand that they will get you to where you need to be. If your heart isn't in it, if you don't want to put up with that crap, if you can't handle being yelled at, if you can't risk the fact that you may die in a training accident in the United States before you even go to war, if you can't deal with that mentally, don't do it. Don't do it. If you've got kids and a wife and you've got a good job and you've got bills to pay, it probably isn't a good idea to do, because they don't pay you crap when you first start out in the military, things like that. And your kids are not going to see you and wonder where you were. I mean, I remember that. Dad was always gone, But if you're young and you're on the fence and you're just thinking things like that, they will get you. If you're underweight, they will feed you. If you're overweight, they will starve you. But I mean, the guy that I was saying that was like Gomer Pyle, I saw him about a month after we got out of boot camp. He was in School of Infantry. The guy was a lean, mean fighting machine. I mean, he really was. It's like, damn, I can't believe that. Wow. He graduated boot camp with us. He made it through. He did everything he had to do, but he was still kind of a slob. And he was thinner. He was more toned. He could keep up with us. He could shoot. He could, but a month later when he's in School of Infantry, it's like, wow. I mean, so you never know. But, and I don't want to make you or anybody who didn't enlist feel bad. I have a hard time understanding, because I grew up in it. You didn't grow up in it. The nearest military base was probably 10 hours away or something.
About that, yeah. Now here's the thing, though, and you don't make me feel bad. I do myself, though, because now, being 38 years old and being around, being on YouTube chats with veterans like yourself and some of the others, just meeting people in person, listening to guys that have been in the military, talk to my dad, and compare how it is now versus how it was back in the 60s. I feel like I'm about that big whenever there's a conversation like that going on. And I know that that's all on me. I make myself feel that way, but I feel like, and I think a lot of it's because of my extreme sense of patriotism that obviously didn't come from being in the military. It just comes from being around military people and, knowing what I know now. But I do feel that way whenever I'm around people who did serve. Like, I feel like I'm a little person, sitting at the big table, and I don't belong there. And I know that nobody else feels that way in the conversation. But that's just how I feel whenever I am around people who did serve the country. Real quick, I want to get this wrapped up so I'm not walking on Matt. He's already had to leave us to get his chat going. But anything that you want to say before we wind up, and then I'm going to end with something really cool here. So go ahead, Squib. We'll let you go, and then Gary.
No, I think I said enough. I ran my mouth enough. Thanks.
All right. Anything you want to plug? Any shows that you're doing or shows that you're joining that you want to tell people about? Squib, any shows or things like that you want to plug?
I mean, Lock and Loads Monday nights at about 11 Eastern is the main show I do. But I mean, I weasel on the shows every day of the week pretty much, and Caliber Corner on Saturday mornings. But I mean, I'm all over. I put really lame videos out. I just got a new camera, so I'll be working on that. I edit with free software, so my editing looks like crap. I mean, no, not really. I mean, if I was more impressive, I'd brag, but whatever.
All right, good enough. Gizzard Gary, any shows that you need to plug or any final words for us?
Well, I'm kind of that guy, at least lately, that doesn't have a show of his own, but he's on everybody else's, I'm a career panelist, but I'm trying to get some stuff out there. But no, I mean, I'm just to make it real quick. I could definitely sympathize with your way of looking at the military. I did too. By the time I was grown up and started having kids, I started looking back, and some of my friends had been in the military. And I wished I'd have done that. I was too scared. I didn't think I was man enough to go through boot camp. I didn't think I could do that. But then everybody else pretty much feels the same way. I just didn't know that, you know. But yeah, there's a lot of me that wishes I had and stuff like that. And of course, you know, that's just the way the world is, you know.
Yep.
2020, you know. Hindsight is 2020, as they say. So anyway, have a lot of respect for everybody that's in the military, and thanks to everybody out there in the audience, everybody who's gonna watch that was in the military. Thanks to you, Squib. Oh yeah, man. That's all I got.
Yep, and you know, that being said, if the time ever comes in my lifetime where, you know, even fat guy and getting older, and you know, I'm getting older a day at a time like everybody else, if the time ever comes where my country needs me, I will be right there, and I will be right beside both of you guys if necessary. I don't ever want to see a civil war where we have to fight to defend our rights against our own tyrannical government, but if that day comes, I'm here. And if we have to defend our country against foreign threats on our soil, you can bet your butt that me and my guns will join that fight if we can, or help out in any way that we can. So we are, yeah, thank you, Squib. Thank you, all of the veterans who are hearing my voice right now. I really do owe you my life, my freedom. The fact that I was born into a free country is because of you and people just like you. So thank you very much. Now, real quick before I sign off, and you know, you can catch me at all the usual places under the name Sandhills Shooter. So right here on YouTube and gun channels. When guntube.org gets back up, then you can find me over there. There's a Patreon channel. There's Instagram and Facebook and all the normal stuff. So real quick, here's what I want to end with. It doesn't take very long to read through this. And so let me see here if I can get this pulled up. This is the Declaration of Independence. And I think I'm just going to read through this real quick. So here is, I think I've got the right one. Okay, so in Congress, July 4th, 1776. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity for the future, for their future security. Such has been such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. Due to time, I'm not going to go through all of these facts. That is the basis of the Declaration of the Independence of the original 13 colonies, which became states, and now, of course, we have 50 of those in our great nation. So one last thing, again, we live in the world's greatest country, and anybody who doesn't think so should either leave or not come in. The reason that we have freedom is because a lot of people paid the ultimate price, gave their lives, lost their lives or at least their blood to keep this a free country. So we thank you, and we really do love you as much as you love us.